I know I look good today. You don't need to remind me. We're doing the top five philosophy movies. These aren't really the top. These are just the ones I chose to teach. We're going from five to one. Most teachable, most interesting, most legitimate philosophy movies. We're also going to apply a religious meter to each one to tell you how religious they are, just so you know whether you want to or not. So coming in at number five is the movie Contact with Jodie Foster. The movie's a little confusing. It does explore this idea that your belief can come from something other than science. She was a scientist. She held on to really empirical beliefs. Didn't feel like that could be challenged, but as the movie moves along, the last third of the movie gets a little weird or even a little religious-y when it tries to compare the notion of faith to her idea of empirical belief in epistemology, whatever that word means. That's Contact, religious meter. We're going to have to give it a 9 out of 10. Number four, we're talking about Minority Report. I think it's Tom Cruise. I didn't do any research. This movie is about whether you can be convicted of crimes for your thoughts, which really brings up this question about whether you can be considered a criminal for thought alone without action, which means the thought maybe suggests action, but you haven't actually done the thing yet. So this is a very interesting thought crime movie, very well done movie that is very philosophical. You apply the religious meter, you get a two maybe because of what's going on a little bit with this idea, but pretty minimal. And so philosophically, it is really interesting from that particular perspective. Number three, The Matrix, everyone's favorite philosophy movie. I taught it all the time when they were dumb enough to let me teach. The Matrix has a lot of academic textbooks even written about it. We know what it's about. It's about metaphysics. It's about postmodernism in the 20th century, Jacques Lacan, even Neo-Freudian, and Jean Baudrillard. So when Tom Cruise hands the CD to the guy in the apartment, there's a book, and the CD is hidden in the book, and the book is Simulation and Simulacra by Jean Baudrillard. That particular title means the fake is the real, very postmodern, and it's rich with philosophy threads. A lot of those obviously very intentional, and you can follow those if you can overlook all of the special effects that people become obsessed with. Number two out of five is Memento. This is Christopher Nolan's first movie, writing and directing. Memento is about memory and the self. It is about stitching together memories and creating an enduring self, very philosophical. We talk about this idea all the time in terms of hyperanalytic philosophy, but in terms of art and film, this is one of the best that talks or at least brings up this conversation about whether you are the same thing from moment to moment. And if you can't remember things, like John Locke said, then there is no way to actually call that an enduring, persistent self. That memory is the only thing that can stitch it together. I don't agree with that, of course, but that shows you how much philosophy you can get out of this particular movie. That's Memento. You apply the religious scale, which I forgot to do with The Matrix. Religious scale in The Matrix is number four because Neo's kind of the savior. In terms of Memento, you get the religious scale comes in at zero. There's no religion in that movie, and I know you can't wait. So the number one philosophy movie, again, there's a lot of other ones. Number one for teaching is Fight Club. This is David Fincher, based on a novel by Chuck Palahniuk. I met Chuck Palahniuk one time, and he was clueless about what Fincher was trying to do in the movie with Sigmund Freud. And I don't know if he was playing dumb or whether he just doesn't understand these ideas. His book was more about materialism and capitalism. And so when I did try to read the actual novel, and I gave up on page three because it was so pop bullshit, waste of time, which means Fincher did a lot of work. So one example from Fight Club that we use a lot in my fake classes is when Brad Pitt's at the bottom of the stairs in the basement and Edward Norton's at the top of the stairs, and he's about to be aware of the fact that he has this split psyche, two people in one. He doesn't at that point realize it, but as an audience, we're supposed to feel that. And that is Freud's idea that he called the basement of the mind, which is the subconscious and the stores of the subconscious, and how the psyche split between that deeper subconscious mind and a more conscious, more aware mind. And so those two people represent that. The movie's rich with that. And we have Fight Club covering the bases with metaphysics, epistemology, and even politics. The intention on the surface of the movie, of course, was about consumption, capitalism, and in no small way, some religiosity, which means that Jacques Lacan's idea of language and groups always fail when they get together. Cults always seem to manifest into their opposite, into something evil. And so in Fight Club, you have the group intending to be more about living a real, authentic life, and then becoming, you know, uh, sheep. They bought into the system. Whenever you buy into the system, it fails. And that's another one of Fight Club's political threads that you can um, get out of the film, especially if you're teaching it. That's Fight Club. You do have a 2 then on the religious scale for the little herd thinking group, but overall not a very religious movie, more of a neo-Freudian movie. We all know Freud didn't like religion, but that's the top 5. Those are in order the best philosophy movies. Go watch them now.